Hey guys, Coach Dan here. We're going to go over some very simple footwork drills, but these footwork drills can get very complicated. So when we're working our jab and we're working just our baseline movement, we want to learn how to move on a slight angle. What we don't want is we don't want our feet to spread apart, move apart, and be all over the place. So if we keep our feet in alignment as we're moving forward, we'll have a pretty good way of knowing where the base is coming from, okay? Hey guys, we're set up here now, so we're going to run off this stick. You can have a stick on the ground, it can be a pugil stick, whatever you want. You can have a simple piece of tape here. So if you notice, we're in a kind of a straight line here, and we're going to work this leg as if it's a spear. It's going to come out to the tip, and then they're going to allow themselves to come back. So what they're looking for is to kind of meet in the middle. So if you have two different size players, they're going to meet at a different spot because their foot stances are different. Their lengths, their heights, all that stuff varies. But in this particular case, it's going to give you two options. You have a junior player and you have a senior player. So as they're moving out, you want to make sure that they're kind of staying even still because it allows them to both kind of find a uniformity. Okay, so we're going to move out together. Go. Sliding out, sliding out. When they reach the pole, they just start to move their way back. Okay, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. So if you watch that, one is moving from the outside towards the inside. The other one is working from his outside this way. Okay, so you have two different directions and two different angles. So when you're jabbing, not only do you want to be able to move to the left, you also, when you jab, you want to be able to guide and be able to move towards your right side. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to switch them. The guys are just going to switch spots, and when they're over here, they both get the opportunity now to work those sides, either one. Okay, so slide in again. So they're moving their way in, and they get to there. Now you notice that one foot is out further than the other. His foot is on the inside, his is on the outside. So move back again. And this is exactly what you're going to see if you're fighting somebody. This is just a guideline, helps to keep them centered, and it makes it like you're coming into a spear. This is also one way to think about it when you're cutting a ring off. You can't cut a ring off running around in a circle. So you need to have these angles in order to cut the ring. So we utilize this. So if we drop this in the center of a ring and we're working off of those angles, it will push the person towards a corner. And it will also, for the guy that's pushing him towards a corner, will understand that he doesn't want to get pushed towards the corner, which allows him to circle. So now what they're going to do is they're going to go all the way out. So go out again, all the way to your max. Now all they're going to do is just pivot. So just pivot around. So just move, pivot around, keep pivoting, and then move your way back. Back, straight jab, and then pivot back. Pivot step, don't pivot backwards. You have to pivot the opposite way. Okay, so when you have your youth, you got to make sure that you know which direction that they're traveling. You don't ever want to turn your back to your opponent, so always think that your opponent is still here, and you always want to pivot towards the person at all times. Okay, so we'll go back out, straight out the same way. We'll get to there. Nice, good pivot step. So pivot around. Okay, moving back. Back. So now from here, you're going to pivot and you're moving that way. Pivot all the way. So you want a big pivot, not a small one. Pivot around. So all the way. So now when you're coming out to here, if I get out to here and I'm set here, two ways if I want a big pivot. Now if I got my own, I can pivot right over the stick. Okay, and I can pivot back. So if there's one guy operating this, pivot. And then he can come right back onto that stick. If not, pivot the opposite way and bring your foot around, okay? Which then allows you to be wherever you want. By the time you've pivoted around, I'm going to be here. I've moved all the way back. I just take this foot, pivot. I'm right back into where I want to be, okay? So Connor's going to move out first, and then George will come after him, okay? Pivot, big pivot. There you go. You bring yours back in now. I want one pivot now, one big pivot. Pivot, big. There you go. So George's going to come in. He's going to do the same. One big pivot. Bam. He's right where he needs to go. So same thing. Guide it out. 1, 2. There you go. Hit the spot. Now pivot. Big pivot. Okay? So bring it back. 1, 2. All the way. Big step. Pivot. And bam. So when you pivot, make sure that there's balance and make sure, big mistake, pivoting and then landing off the side. You want to make sure you pivot and you're going to be right back into that stance. Anything less than that, you're actually going to fall backwards. Okay, so now George is going to come up the side here where he was, straight in. Okay, so now you're going to pivot backwards. He's going to spin. He's going to guide right in again. But right now he's going to stop here. Now he's going to pivot over, all the way. Yep, right to there. Okay, now moving back, straight up, go. Pivot backwards, good. Bring it back in, go part way, pivot over. There it is. Okay, bring it back in, drive it through, keep going. Out, 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 big pivot. So he's using the whole length of the stick, and when he hits the bottom end of the stick, it allows him then to think, okay, it's time to pivot step. When he's coming back, he's getting about halfway, so he gets about halfway, and this allows him to make a nice big pivot and land with the center of it. So when it lands in the center, he has a base idea where the guy is going to be and what he's doing. Okay, so then he just steps back and then comes off the line. Step it back and off the line and bring it right back in. So when you come up this way a little bit, so when they're here, always watch where their feet are going. There will be times when they're going to make mistakes, and this is the time to make the mistake, not in the ring or anywhere else. So when you're in the ring and you want to be able to pivot, you can pivot a little bit and you can pivot a lot. Okay? Now, a lot of your pivot steps are going to depict on whether or not are you kickboxing, are you boxing, are you doing MMA. All those are going to vary. You don't want to be doing some big pivot step like this in the middle of an MMA fight. You better know where your feet are, because double leg takedowns, all that kind of stuff can play a major factor in just being able to step out. Okay? This is really crucial to learn in boxing. High level skills, you got to be able to move and you got to be able to pivot off the line of attack. These are really good to get out of the way when somebody's attacking you. You can pivot and you can pull the front leg back. Okay? So remember, any of the directions that you're using, we're only using one direction, and then we just added a simple pivot. You have a lot of variety here. So this here tool, very simple. Could simply be a piece of tape too. Could be a ladder, whatever you want to use. Okay? So remember, click like, subscribe,